Welcome to Pioneers in Payments, where payments experts share their insights. Now, here's our host, Donna Blum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Pioneers in Payments. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with a fellow podcaster, Joe Casali from NEACH. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'm an esteemed company. I've looked at your episodes, and a lot of my friends are out there.
I'm so glad to hear that. Well, now you are going to be amongst the ranks. So, woo!
Woo!
Well, Joe, before we get started, would you mind sharing a little bit with our audience about who you are, your background in payments, and also what you do at NEACH?
Sure, absolutely. It's really an interesting story on my podcast. One of the questions I asked, and I stole this from Kevin Olson, one of the questions I ask is, did you, when you're growing up, did you want to be in payments? I had no idea. My friend said, I have an interview, but I don't really want to go. Do you want to go? And I'm like, okay. So I went. And 35 years later, I am still here. Same company. I work for the New England Automated Clearinghouse. We call ourselves NEACH now because we're cool. But we started as an ACH association. And ACH was like the previous faster payment. Checks were becoming a problem. There were so many checks. They were starting to pile up at institutions. They had innovated around that. They were using codes. They were using routing numbers. They were inventing machines. At that time, they said, we need another solution. And we were an organization formed around supporting the growth of ACH. That's where we started. And we've extended into other payments at this point. And we started, we were the answer people. So this ACH thing was new. And when things would go wrong, people would say, what do we do? What do we do? We were their support team for ACH. So when they would come to us and say, got this entry, what do I do with it? We would spout out the rules to them and tell them how to process those things. We have since, and I want to do a little disclaimer. I'm here as Joe Casali. If anything, if I offend anyone, we're kind of a little irreverent sometimes. It's me speaking, not the association. But why an association? There used to be 35 associations. There are now 9. So we're getting bigger, and there's certainly less of us. And finally, we've got a couple of programs, right? So we have a podcast, Wrestling Payments. We kind of settled on that title because people were wrestling with payments, wrestling with new payments, wrestling with old payments, wrestling with fraud. Figured it was a good title. The other big thing we have right now, and I think I'll answer more of this later, but we've totally redesigned our education around the topic of NEACH U. We called it NEACH U, like NEACH University. And the idea was we always had great sessions, but they were sort of sessions of opportunity. So, we would have a government session on government payments, but it would really be on reclamations because people needed to know reclamation information right now. NEACH U goes back to the basics, and it starts and explains everything about government payments, everything about compliance, risk, daily operations, really geared around getting folks from one level in the institution to the next level. And once you've gotten to that level, maybe you want to look at managing payments. Maybe you want to look at strategy with payments. That's what we're aiming at. I'll say we're aiming at because we're in our second year and we're remodeling a bunch of things. But that's me. 35 years I've been here.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, BHMI's been around for 38, so we're both kind of old timers. I haven't been here for 38 years, but
Yep.
The company has.
Absolutely.
And boy, oh boy, have things changed a lot in the industry since ACH was brand new, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there are a lot of changes in the industry today, a lot of trends. And we could probably spend all day talking about those.
We could.
But we don't have all day. So let's talk about in your what you perceive the top trend in the industry to be today.
Sure. So as I spent my career here, I spent up to like 2000 trying to get direct deposit everywhere. And it was easy and it was simple. And we just had to go out and say, hey, do you go to the bank on Friday? Do you hate waiting in line? You should try direct deposit. That was the big push. Enter the internet and enter innovation, and the ACH network itself exploded. They went through a phase of, let's take the check. You can still write checks. We'll take the checks. We'll convert them into ACHs. Hey, this internet thing? Let's take payments over the internet. We're going to make rules around the internet. Fast forward 2015. You know what? Currently, we have basically one. Payments are not published, settled in the morning, right? They all show up in the bank account in the morning. Sometimes it takes a couple of days. Let's do this faster. Same day ACH came out, so that was a big move. Same day ACH was built a rule set around that. How could you have more than one delivery of payments in a day? And at the same time, the Fed was looking at instant payments and faster payments and really catching up with the rest of the world. Europe, and some of you guests have said this, Europe has a lot of innovations. They've moved to, at that time, 2015, they had moved to instant payments. UK had a faster payments network. They were settling payments one by one as they were processed. So the ACH, actually the Fed said, you know what? We really should be strategic about this. What can we do about strategy to make things better for the US? And they came out with instant payments. We had one vendor appear in the network. We had another payment, the Fed themselves have decided to be an operator of an instant payment network. So lots of things have changed. That's a big thing, right? And I can talk more about that in a minute, but that's a big thing. The other things that are happening are AI. I was watching TV last night. AI is not new. AIs have been around as long as our companies, right? But it's kind of just gotten a push, right? It's everywhere, and it's, on one hand, it's amazing, and on the other hand, it's kind of scary. If you want to use it for good, there's lots of things that AI can help with. It and can look at transactions and say, that one doesn't look right. And it could be a fraud. It could be some sort of scam. On the bad side of things, the bad guys are equally as innovative. So there are a lot of more challenges for people. We could have this podcast. The bad guys could take this information. They could have me call you on a video call and say things. Hey, I changed my account information. Can you send me a transaction? It's not me. It's the AI. So that is a big thing, I think, in the industry today. The last thing I've been toying with this for an episode title, but I haven't released it yet. Is this the golden age of payments, or is this the age of disruption? We could have 2 more episodes just on those things. So that's what I think is, for me, is hot in the industry right now, the big considerations.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with all of those things.
Excellent.
So naturally, with all of the changes in the industry, the innovation, the disruption, on and on, that results in certain opportunities and certain challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk for a moment about what you perceive to be the top opportunities for organizations that process payments today.
Sure. The opportunities are all the things I just mentioned. So we are, and unlike some of your guests, we are payments, traditional payments, really. I notice you have a lot of card folks on. We don't really touch cards. We can talk about cards, but we're on checks, wires, ACH, instant payments now. Institutions, banking, credit unions, traditional financial institutions, regulated financial institutions have a lot of regulation to comply with. So you have a world today where the banks are still doing, and the credit unions, when I say banks, please forgive me, it's financial institutions, are struggling to offer a whole breadth of services to their customers, right? And those services could be traditional checking. Now, my daughter can write a check. I was pretty impressed, but she only writes a check when I ask her to write a check. She uses non-traditional banking. ACH can be used. Same-day ACH has a lot of benefits for streamlining operations. If you're unfamiliar with the banking industry, when an ACH hits and it's a bad ACH, it sits on the receiving bank's account and lowers their balance, perhaps. If you use same-day ACH, the bank can free up that capital by returning that faster, instant. And it is the traditional system. It just has a different settlement schedule, a different delivery schedule, if you will. Instant payments. So we've seen a lot of fintechs, a lot of outside parties. Nothing against them, but they're not traditional payment systems. They're not regulated to the degree of the financial institutions. And the best example I can give here, and again, not disparaging these payment systems, but crypto, right? Crypto's so unregulated. And if you study what's happened with the big crypto companies that have had problems, it's not a technology problem. It's not the crypto's problem. It's some sort of business problem. FTX or what that problem had nothing to do with crypto. It was all how they ran their business. Synapse is another one. It had nothing to do with the crypto itself. It has a problem with something in the business, not keeping track of things properly. So the opportunity here is the banks are built for compliance with safe, secure, efficient payments, but they're challenged by these other companies, these other offers that don't necessarily have to apply to those yet, because the government hasn't caught up with regulations or oversight or the ability to have regulations and oversight. So it's an opportunity for financial institutions to provide great solutions for whatever type of payment you need. Do you need to send a payment that's going to be there whenever? Great. Write a check. Do you need a payment so they don't shut off your lights? An instant payment would solve that problem. So there's lots of opportunities there.
That's really interesting. I actually had a guest recently that spoke about providing some consulting services to train fintechs how to understand FI language, which, I've had a few guests that have talked about the fact that there's two different mindsets and languages. Right?
That's a fascinating topic because, if you asked me this 5 years ago, imagine you have this college kid. He can code like no one's business, but he doesn't know what a regulation is. So someone says, solve this problem. Okay, solved. He didn't comply with any of the regulations. And 5 years ago, that was a problem because they didn't know what a regulation is. Today, they're much, much better. They know what regulation is. They know they have to comply with regulation. The challenge comes when that fintech comes to that financial institution, and I'm imagining a startup college kid. The financial institution can't use them because they forgot to provide privacy for the transaction. And the government would say, you must make that private. Is it a problem? It's not a big problem because the guy says, oh, the problem's privacy? Fixed. But they don't understand that in the beginning. Again, the fintech industry has risen in their regulatory knowledge recently.
That's good. That's good because I really do see the future being a collaboration between the two.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the greatest opportunities. What are the greatest challenges today?
So I wanted to use this, and I didn't get the YouTube link. I wanted to use this story. And for folks who don't know who Lucille Ball is, YouTube it. And what you want is the candy assembly line episode.
I'll be
And
sure to find it and include it in the description of this video.
excellent. And if you didn't see it, Lucy, who's zany and gets herself in predicaments all the time, goes to work at a candy factory. It's literally a conveyor belt in front of her. She has to wrap the candy and put it in a box. And they start. And it's nice. It's slow. She does it. Great. They see how good a job she's doing, and they say, "Oh, we're going to speed up the line." So then she's kind of barely keeping up, and every little while she throws one over her shoulder because she can't keep up. They said, "Hey, you're still doing great. Let's speed it up again." And then it's out of control. She's eating them. She's putting them down to her apron. That's the state of payments. It used to be checks. Oh, then we introduced ACH. All right, let's do that. Now we have Instant, Venmo, Cash App, a private label solution that you can pay us. There are so many things happening right now, and nothing's shut off. You know, they didn't say, "Oh, we've gotten to our 5th payment system. Let's shut off checks." No payment system ever goes away. Cash, I have cash in my pocket. I pay things with cash. Hasn't gone away. So that's the challenge. I imagine the listener has experienced this in their own career, right? I'm sorry, I'm from Boston, right? We have Dunkin' Donuts. Used to go to Dunkin' for a coffee and maybe a donut, right? They had a nice, plain donut everyone used. If you've been in a Dunkin' recently, their menu is out of control. They have probably 100 different offerings. Same thing with payments. There's 100 different ways to do things. Trying to keep current, keep educated, do what you do great, do new things equally as great. It's a challenge, and that's why we look at NEACH U. That's why we started the podcast. Those are the reasons we're trying to help, and we think of our people. I think of our people as back office operations folks. That's our people, right? If you're a lender, I can have a conversation with you. Somewhere along the line, we have different goals. We are about processing transactions, avoiding losses, trying to be as efficient and meet the needs of the financial institution for whatever the financial institution wants to do, loans, safekeeping, whatever. So those, I think, are the biggest challenges. And the AI thing, right? It's going to help, but it may hurt as well. So it's all challenging.
Now, I'm going to ask you to take your sum total of knowledge about the payments industry, all of your experience, and wrap it up into one tiny little silver bullet piece of advice for organizations that are processing payments.
Yeah, while I was preparing for this, that was, the silver bullet is the hardest part. Here's what I thought the silver bullet could be, and it's something I've done as well. Be a lifelong learner. New ways of doing what you already did. You could be in the industry for a while, and if you're not in the industry, if you're a college student or you're looking for a career, payments are awesome. Payments are fun. You can find whatever you want to do in payments, and it's a different job every day, right? And I think that's what the bonus for me is. Being a lifelong learner, saying I'm going to be continue to learn because there's new things that are going to come along. There's new ways of doing things, right? If you were a check processor back in 1999, you were processing pieces of paper. You were flying pieces of paper. You were putting pieces of paper on a truck. You were, doing lots of things to pieces of paper. 3 years later, it was all digital. It didn't, the payments industry is really funny. It didn't allow a electronic check. It simply said, the law simply said, you can take a picture of that, and if you reprint that picture, that is equal to the original check. That's what the law did. And the Fed, for instance, used to have 42 different operations where they had check processing and trucks would come in, and they shut them all down over a few years. So there's big change in the industry. Continuing to learn, networking with people. Your podcast list is awesome. If you connect with your list on LinkedIn, and they're not they're not movie stars, they're not they don't have security around them. They're people who love payments, and they would be open, I imagine. I haven't talked to them. They would be open to your networking with them and learn from them. Network with them. They may have a solution to your problem that you've never thought of. And again, that balances the get to know them and keep learning, be open. I think that's my silver bullet. I don't know if it ranks up there with all the rest of your silver bullets, but that's
it absolutely does. And I can't recall if any of my previous guests actually said that specifically, but it makes so much sense because in this industry, you absolutely cannot have the mindset, this is the way we've always done it and it's worked in the past, therefore we're going to keep doing it this way. If you have that mentality, you're not going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So it is so important to keep learning and keep keep investigating new ways of doing things, maybe even ideas. I wonder if we could do it this way. I think I had a guest one time just said that, you may think of it and you can have a conversation about it, and it may not be something that can be done today, but there's probably a way you can do it. You can figure out a way to do it.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that is so important to keep learning. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast, because every time I talk to somebody like you, Joe, I learn something new, and I just love that.
And if you're listening to this, go listen to the other episodes because they're great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, and go listen to Joe's episodes too, because they're great. We'll be sure to put a link to the Wrestling Payments podcast in the description, and also to some information about NEACH U. I want to go and check that out, by the way. But that's really the end of my questions, other than to ask you, if somebody wants to learn more about you, they want to contact you, or they want to learn more about NEACH, what information would you like to share with them?
So, I have on my little script, definitely Wrestling Payments. We're a new channel. We're still kind of experimenting with different episodes. We have an episode coming up that I deemed unofficially Two Guys from Boston, where we talk about scams and something needs to change because it's definitely not working, and we can't keep doing the same thing we've been doing to fight scams because they just keep happening. So we're experimenting. If you want to be a guest, happy to have you as a guest. But we really talk about wrestling with this industry. NEACH and NEACH U, we are we're remodeling the offering. It is. We started, I don't want to keep talking, but we started education because we were smart about payments, and let's share that smarts. Well, there's a whole other industry that starts from here's how you teach. So we are smashing that together, and we're approaching it, and this doesn't exist yet, but we're approaching it from, give me the entry-level person. What is their skill set? Okay. Give me the next level. What's missing? And how do we get them to that next level? It's a skills gap analysis, competency models. We're approaching education from that perspective, more than hey, I'm smart and I know payments, and less of that, and more of here's how you get to the next level. And again, this industry's fun. You may start in a operations role, be happy there your entire life, great. But you may say, hey, I'm smart about payments. I want to do more. That's what we're laying the groundwork for.
Fantastic. Yeah, so all of you out there who want to do more, definitely go and check it out. Joe, I just want to thank you so much for your time today and all of your words of wisdom. I also want to thank all of our guests for watching today and just wish you a happy day. Bye
Yep.
now.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.